And then also settlement. From that time, our slogan is hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. So at that time, we talk sometimes hoping, within 1 or 2 years, we may return or find some solution. But now, 50 years already take. Now still don't know how long. But we prepared for that. So we take the project, resettlement project in India. That also not necessarily just to northern India, but we, for long run, for long term, the more open space. So that eventually we found South India, mainly in Karnataka state. So now look back, last 50 years, I think preservation of cultural heritage, I think will be quite well success. Now today, such a stage, the many Tibetan monks, nuns, and also the ordinary student, you say, go to India and join some of these institutions. So at least several thousand now getting spiritual, Buddhist education, Buddhist philosophy, these things, and also modern education like that. So we feel quite proud. Then also modern education field, I think today, I think the standard of modern education inside Tibet, I think our position is better than inside. So last 50 years, I always say, homeless person, but found new happy home. Indian people, Indian government, and concerned officials, and also I think basically many NGOs, even many government, help. So with that, Tibetan refugee community become, I think, one of the most successful refugee community. I think you have to judge. Perhaps I think Tibetan, I think quite good, I think quite successful. So.
Well, indeed, President Robinson, you've worked with so many exile communities everywhere. What do you see as the common problems and also the common possibilities that they all share?
Well, first of all, Your Holiness, it's a great honor to have this opportunity to speak in public with you. And I was thinking as you spoke, 50 years of exile and the pain of that all the same. In Ireland, we profoundly understand exile because we had patterns of emigration over decades, over centuries. And I was always struck by how important it was to the Irish who left the island to preserve their culture along the lines that you're talking about. And when I was elected President of Ireland, I said, and I underestimated what I was going to do. I said I would put a light in the window of my official residence for all of those who'd had to emigrate from Ireland. And that light took on a life of its own. I had actually meant a candle, but the security people said, no candle. So we got a lamp made and we put it in the window. But what I'm saying is that connection that people want, and what you've done is you've enabled those who are exiled to continue to value and to treasure and to pass on to their children their culture and their heritage. And that's vital, but at the same time, I have been in your beautiful country once in 1998, and I immediately sensed the spirituality, the completely different atmosphere from other parts of China. And that must be very difficult, and I think there is no easy way about it. I also believe that we're beginning to understand the importance of using modern communications to make the connections if people have to leave their country. And African countries are now linking with their diasporas. India is doing the same. Indeed, China is linking with a wider diaspora. And I think this is good because Irish culture benefited greatly from what the Irish family around the world had been doing, and then when they started to come back to Ireland, when it was easier to come back and when Ireland became more prosperous, there was an enrichment. So I think that it does lead to enrichment, and yet nonetheless, exile is loss. Exile is distance from home and from the context you want to be in. And it's really very important that you have created a context in India that enables the best possible substitute, but it is a substitute for living in your own country and in your own context. Your Holiness, when you were talking about those 50 years and hope but plan for the worst, can I ask you, thinking back now, if you knew then in 1959 that 50 years would pass and you would still be out of the country, is there anything you think you would have done differently?
Oh, I don't think. As I mentioned earlier, see, we planned our struggle. I think the preparation for worst. They even take generations. See, we must sort of plan accordingly. So at that time, see, among our own people, some of them, you see, actually my elder brother here. So you see, sort of his sort of view, the Tibetan should settle in northern India. The South India too far, that kind of feeling. But then the majority of our people, our sort of concerned people sort of view, as I mentioned earlier, more open space and where, you see, we can extend and also as a colony. So that means including marriage, then better. So instead of just scattered, spread out, like that. So I think we prepare for the worst. I think now become, I think, quite successful. But at that time, I don't know.
So I was wondering whether there is anything specific you would have done differently if you had known that it would take so long.
Actually, now last more than 60 years since I carried a responsibility. Then when I look back, all major decisions in the last 60 years, it seems become correct. Oh, small things, of course, always happen. When I entered this hall, I thought maybe warmer. So at that time, you see, I felt, oh, now just the thicker, because of the shawl, no, may change. But then I thought, oh, if it's cool, or if warm, then I can. Not like, you see, your sort of dress. The monks' one advantage is you can easily, you see, take off. If you feel too cold, yesterday morning teaching, you see, quite cold, so remain like that. So now, if you feel warm enough, then I can take out easily. So I kept this thicker one, so that's correct.